Surprise! Welcome back. It is Monday, and it turns out that Valen actually finished watching Madoka and also watched Rebellion.
Yep. And
We also have a guest.
yes, Tara has did not do that, and she's busy doing something. So I'm like, hey, I know a person who watched this, so it's Julie.
Hello.
So I guess the first thing should be okay. The last thing that we did for that went up yesterday was how all the three of us watched the first 6 episodes. So since then I've watched the rest of the show, and then I also watched Rebellion. Now both of you had seen the full show and Rebellion like a while ago, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So okay, I guess probably the first thing should be, since Julie was not in the first discussion, Julie should probably just tell like her. Okay, let's talk about the show first.
Yeah, as a whole.
Because Rebellion is a thing.
Rebellion, I think, is its own thing. I think it kind of deserves its own section of discussion because
we're gonna do that.
It does so much. It kind of, as Valen said, it kind of exists as its own thing. So
I guess in terms of the overall show, I think actually, Julie, how about you go first in terms of like saying like what kind of you think about the overall show?
I mean, I personally loved the whole show. Hilariously enough, I came into watching it after watching what it essentially is kind of one of the climactic scenes. Are we? This is fully like,
Spoilers are fine.
Yeah, okay. So essentially, the first clip I saw was the one of Mommy dying. And that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And funnily enough, like, I had pretty much almost finished watching Sailor Moon. I didn't watch that as a kid, but I'd watched a whole bunch of other like magical girl anime. I was like, oh, this looks cute and exciting. Oh, guns. Oh, God. And then I got really mad and didn't want to watch it. And then I like kept seeing a bunch of fan art for it, and I'm like, you know what? I guess I'm gonna watch it. And I did, and it turned out to be a really cool new take on anime. And I think it kind of marked the beginning of like the whole pattern of releasing anime in like 12-episode chunks. But I really liked how this could tell an entire story in like such a short amount of time, with like characters and having all the essential elements that you need to have a really good story, and presenting it in a way that was very new and very different from like what we come to expect from your typical like magical girl anime.
Well, also because most like anime, especially that's like Western people know, is generally like the anime that goes on forever and is like 1,000 episodes, and it's just people doing shit for like 18 years.
Are you talking about Naruto
and Pokemon and One Piece and so Dragon Ball Z, so yeah. It's like, oh, we actually have like a story with a beginning, middle, and end.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I guess so at the end of the last thing I said that I just there was nothing in it that I said that I loved, but I was just really interested in knowing what happens next. So I found out what happens next.
Now I don't have to be like so constipated with holding stuff back now.
Yeah. This is actually we are recording this like a week after we recorded the previous one, basically, because of stuff. So I have already edited and put up the one before at the time this is being recorded. So I remember I was listening to it back after like I'd actually like watched the the rest of it, and so there was something that like one of us said where I could tell in like your response you were like clearly trying to like not say something.
Oh, what was it? Do you remember?
Sayaka. Oh, I remember. It was because I said that in the thing where Mommy ends up dying, I said that I thought Sayaka was going to die instead.
Right.
And then I specifically said, well, she's not dead. And you were like, uh-huh, or something.
No, you told me that during a conversation when you were talking about Mommy. like, I totally thought Sayaka was gonna die, and I'm like,
You were probably also like,
yeah. Given what happens next, I was like,
Because we stopped at episode 6, and she gets canned in episode 9.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it was really hard for me to not be like.
I mean, you basically sounded like that anyway, but yeah.
But see, when you're not looking for it, you don't find it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess like for me, so okay, it definitely seemed like the episodes 7, 8, and 8 were clearly about Sayaka and like how she was trying to, again, her kind of fall into despair.
Mm-hmm.
And then 9, well, like Kyoko was part of that a bit too, especially in 7. And then 9 also kind of brought them, also Kyoko, kind of more into it in terms of trying to like save her / deal with her, whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then 10, 11, 12 were very clearly about Homura.
Yeah.
So, and I actually liked how both of those kinds of things were handled quite a lot. I don't know, I thought like Sayaka's like fall into despair was really, it was believable, and also in a way where like, because one of the main things that I was not 100% sure of like during the time was how Madoka was like really hesitant to kind of do anything. And I was like not 100% sure how I felt about that, but like I like it kind of for 2 reasons. One is that I do feel like her hesitancy like is completely valid, because she doesn't really know what the hell's going on, and like it's clear that there's like stuff that's they don't know about in terms of like the contract and stuff. So it makes sense that she would like not want to jump in there completely, but at the same time she like does want to help. So like it's something that is a believable kind of interaction. But then on top of that, you have like, because Sayaka basically like calls her out on it, I think in like episode 8, I think
episode 8, before she gets on the train.
Yeah, so again, it's like, okay, they acknowledge that like this is a thing and like this is a problem, I guess you could say, and that like, you know, the other girls like don't exactly appreciate it, that she's not really doing anything. So like I actually kind of like the interaction and how it's something where like you understand where both of them are coming from. So yeah, I don't know, I liked that aspect of that.
I'm like getting flashbacks as you're like talking.
Same. I mean, I think with Sayaka's especially, because like that's the whole thing about the entire show. It's kind of showcasing the different reasons why, you know, somebody would just take a random like deal with a little, you know, alien ferret thing and be like,
Yeah.
Sure, I'm gonna like put my life in danger, you know, whether it's from like a misplaced sense of idealism, whether it's from desperation, or, you know, a need to like make yourselves and other people happy, and just kind of knowing that like that doesn't always work out, you know. Sometimes it will blow up in your face, or sometimes there's just unforeseen consequences. I feel like Sayaka's was just really interesting because like she was kind of a mix of both. Like it was both selfless and selfish.
Yeah.
And at first, like I wasn't super impressed with her. Like I think just like her choice. I'm like, oh, she's, you know, kind of just doing it to do it, and it kind of blew up in her face. But it's kind of her fault. But I don't know. It also like made sense. I don't know where I was going with that, but like her whole like little journey was actually super interesting to watch, and just like watching her kind of come to the realization of like what being a magical girl like actually kind of means, like in terms of like her connection with the soul gem. I'm like, that was actually a really kind of powerful moment, so that was really cool. And I think it's also just kind of interesting to note that like the show is not really about Madoka like at all, you know, to kind of put that in perspective. Like she's there, but she's kind of there to represent sort of us, like as like somebody who's watching things go on, and like we could say like, oh man, she's, you know, kind of wimpy and whatever, but like she's actually kind of smart for, you know, being
right.
able to immediately take the deal, like because she's always like, yeah, I kind of have no reason to.
Also, I don't
Like,
really know what the
looks-
hell's going on.
Yeah, I don't know what the hell's going on. My first instinct isn't to just be like, yeah, sure, I'll take your deal.
Yeah, I kind of appreciate how, like, in episode 3, when she first, like, told mommy, okay, yeah, I'll be your partner. And then she sees what happens to her, and then, like, she's, like, second-guessing herself. And, like, I think if you're not familiar with that kind of decision, or maybe you don't like that kind of decision in your fiction, then it's easy to get mad at that kind of decision. But I think it's realistic. Like, you think that you're on board with something, and then you see, some serious shit go down, and then you're like, maybe I'm not prepared for this. And I think it's very just comforting in that way, because it's like someone else is also making that second guessing kind of decision, and it's from a place of self-preservation. It's just like, well, I don't want to die too,
Yeah, it's I started watching a different anime just last few days. I'm not gonna say what it is yet because just for reasons, but it's this kind of illustrates that the main character of that, it's kind of a similar issue at first, on the surface of it, where it's he's not sure about sort of this new role that's thrust upon him and how to handle it or whatever. But that character annoyed me way more at first than Madoka, because it's his whole thing was that it wasn't that I'm cautious and I don't know what to do. It was that I suck and I'm a loser and I can't do anything. When but you can do things. You clearly have done it before. So why are you saying that you're a loser? It's that was way more frustrating. Where this is it's very clearly laying out this is what she does not know, and what she does know is not exactly a good thing. So yeah, it makes it a lot more believable in this thing where it's oh, even though I totally punched this dude's this robot and completely destroyed it, I think I'm a wuss and can't stand up for myself. And it's why? So yeah, but I'll go into that later in another discussion, more specifically.
It kind of sounds like you're watching Evangelion or something.
I'm not watching it. It's not Evangelion.
Okay, it's not. When the hell are you gonna watch Evangelion?
I don't know.
Watch Madoka, even though I told you several years ago to watch Madoka.
You did?
It's because I forced him to watch it.
That's actually
God,
true.
because he never would. He doesn't listen to me.
He should be listening to you and not to me.
Okay, hold on. I legitimately don't remember. I'm not saying you didn't. I just don't remember that you asked me to watch Madoka. But
said every person ever.
I'm sorry. Okay, but then the other thing is again that it was something that it was on my list, but it was super low priority compared to other things that I was looking for. So I guess again when Maya brought it up as hey, we're gonna watch this, I was okay. Again, because I knew, at least I said in the other discussion, that there was some sort of twist involved, and it wasn't just Sailor Moon. So, yeah. But, okay, so we have that, and then, okay. So the last 3 episodes with Homura. That's the best part of the show. I'm gonna say that right now.
What was your reaction to just episode 10? Because I think it's a cold open, right? It just kind of is wait, who the hell is this? Why is she Homura?
Yeah. It's one of those things where how it's, because again I said this throughout the show when in the last discussion where I was Homura, the whole point of her character in the first half of the show is that you have no idea what her deal is, right?
Yeah.
And so hey, now you know what her deal is, and it's this actually sort of makes perfect sense in terms of why she was acting the way she was, right? And it turns it also in a different way where, because at first you think oh, she's kind of standoffish and doesn't interact with people because maybe something it's kind of oh, something scarred her or whatever, and now she's unemotional or whatever. And it's that's not a false statement, but it adds this layer of specifically because she was friends with Madoka and saw all that stuff with her, where it adds this extra layer of tragedy that I didn't expect at all. But it still makes sense and also makes the previous scenes more powerful once you know that.
Yeah, that's how I was watching it.
Yeah, so that I like that a lot, and I thought that sort of, again, how in this sense of just desperately trying to do something to fix things like, and just kind of being stuck in this cycle where like something has to change. It's just trying things here and there, and just nothing ending up working in any way. Like I don't know, that to me that's like super. That idea is a really interesting idea. I'm not gonna say relatable because I can't think of an example for me that's really happened, but like it's a very interesting idea though, where because like literally, I think Kyubey says this at some point where like. Literally all that she's going on is hope, but like it's hope for something that Kyubey is saying is literally impossible, right? Which it turns out to not exactly be impossible, but that's kind of its own thing that we'll get to in a little bit. But yeah, I like if I were to in terms of characterization, I think Homoda's the best, and then Sayaka's second. That's what I would say, and then I'd probably say Madoka's third. But yeah, I don't know. So I really like the last stuff with Homoda. I think it's really good.
I don't know. I guess I'm just thinking with Homoda, like, for me at least, like, the end with her, like, especially in episode 10, where you're really just getting to know her, I guess, and like, begin to feel something for her as a character. Because, again, that's another kind of anime, like, trope, is, like, the cold, quiet, like, character who distances herself for whatever reason. And then you're like seeing a more frail side of her, like vulnerable side of her, and just like, especially because she keeps repeating these time loops, right?
Yeah.
And I realize you wouldn't think of it in the spur of the moment, when your friend is dying, but god damn it, Madoka, why did you have to tell her that?
Oh my god, yeah.
So
okay.
Wait, tell her what?
Can we talk about that a little bit?
Hold on, what are you talking about? I don't remember.
Because, like, literally when Madoka's dying during that first timeline, she's like, you can stop this, you can go back in time and save me.
Oh. Well...
Yeah.
I mean...
No, true. I realize it, like, in a realistic sense, like, yeah, sure, I'll do anything to save you, but it's also like... God damn it, Madoka! What have you done?
I think that's only something you can really think about if you like think about it for a little while, because I didn't pick up on that the first time I watched it.
Yeah, exactly. The first time you watch, you're so like caught up in the scene because you want something to resolve. You want a good ending, and you're like, yeah, of course, that's like the perfect thing. But then, like, once you see it resolve over and over and over again with the same result, then you're like, oh no.
Well, at the same time, there's literally no way she would have known that. Right?
Yeah,
there is no way. No.
There is no way, but like as a viewer, it's one of those like don't go down in the basement sort of things. You're like, why? Why would you do that?
I guess. I don't know. I always see those kinds of things as like actual like positives in terms of the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
Because I always like it when characters make wrong decisions, but they don't like realize they're making wrong decisions, and it's believable wrong decision. I always like that sort of how that works, and just sort of the characterization that comes from that. So
I'm not saying it's a detriment to the story. It makes it work, but it's still...
It's kind of like, I guess, like the way we're kind of looking at it is like how it characterizes their relationship, kind of. Is that what you're going off of, Julie?
Sort of, yeah.
I guess, like, yeah, I don't know. For me, like, okay, the only thing to me that, well, that's not true. I don't know where I'm going with this. I feel like I had something to talk about before, like the ending of the series, but then I don't.
It gets really hard to get to the end of the series without thinking about what happens in Rebellion.
Yeah, okay, so I'm just trying to think of it in terms of the series, and my main issue with the ending of the series is you can very easily logically pick it apart. Now, granted, because the show is focusing much more on the emotion of what's going on, it doesn't, like, hold it back that much, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because, so basically, because again, it's much more focused on the emotion that the characters are going through and, all that kind of stuff. That works really well, but at the same time, I'm just thinking, like, you're telling me that, like, 10,000 plus years have gone by and nobody has tried this before.
Not a single other bitch did this.
Why do you think they choose, like, young teenage chicks? We don't think about anything.
But, like... Because, like...
You're 12, or, like, 13 or 14.
Still, it's just something where I'm like... Because at first, this is the one thing... Okay, and I'm not saying that... Again, this does not ruin the show. That's one of the things that actually does it better. Is actually good about it. Is because how it's presented, it doesn't ruin the show. But, I'm just thinking like, because how the wish is presented at first. It's presented, and even though it doesn't explicitly say this, it sort of implicitly implies that like the wish has to be something about yourself. Even if it's not about yourself, it's at least like something that you know about, like personally,
like something personal.
Yeah, like
right?
how Sayaka's wish is about. I forgot the guy's name, but that guy's health,
Kyosuke.
right? Yeah, so it's like that, or at least, or even Kyoko's, which was like
her father.
Right. So it seems like a more sort of a personal angle, but then it's like, oh, actually, yeah, you could just like wish to like be God, and it's like, oh, yeah, why didn't anyone do that before?
Okay, the thing though is like the way it, at least from what I assumed it was explained, was based on like your potential, like as a human, like essentially the potential energy you could put out into the world, that dictates how big your wish can be. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, right.
And like obviously what these guys are wishing, what some of these guys are wishing for is pretty big, but like for example, I guess like you could kind of say like I don't know, Saika's wish to heal Kyosuke? Is that his name?
Yeah, Kyosuke.
Like, maybe she's not influencing the world, but she's influencing his ability to like make a stir. You know what I mean? So her wish could be pretty big. So could a lot of theirs. Like Mommy's wish to stay alive. Like she wasn't already dead, so her wish, I guess, like she had a pretty good amount of potential energy. So like Madoka collectively, because like all of her smaller abilities to make potential through all her timelines, I guess, coalesced in her ability to make a really, really big wish. She also has the benefit of actually having been able to break the secret of being a magical girl, because most of them don't know it until it's too late.
That's fair.
And also, like, most magical girls are likely to like kill each other before they're able to talk to one another and compare notes, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
I guess. I mean, I'm not saying that that's interpretation is wrong. I just feel like maybe have that like be a little bit more obvious, as that's what it was, because that was like a thought in my head. I was like, wait a minute. But again, I don't think it like I said, it doesn't ruin the show because it doesn't focus on that aspect of what's going on. I will say this is a very common thing in anime, and it's something that does kind of bother me somewhat, where like they take something that's very like mystical or like magical or whatever, and they try to like physics it and be like, oh, it's actual like entropy of the universe. And I'm just like, no, that's not how that works. Like,
Anger the physics major.
Yeah.
It's very common, so like for example, like Gurren Lagann does that for its whole thing as well. Again, it really depends. I've said this before for like movies that we've seen where like when they try to science something that doesn't make sense, and like I said this for 2012, right, where I was like, why did you try to like make science the end of the world? Because I said, I'm like, if they literally had no idea what the hell was going on or like why things were happening, I'm like, that would be a better movie, because that's part of the tension, is that you have literally anything can happen because you have no idea what's going to happen, right?
Right, that's true.
So, I don't know. Does it ruin it? No, it's just kind of you're like, oh, okay. But, yeah, I do think in terms of the series with the ending and the emotions with the ending, I think that works quite well. So.
Yeah.
And then we get to Rebellion.
Any final remarks about the show?
It's a good show.
Yeah.
It does a lot of good things. It like puts a lot of stuff that we take for granted into perspective. I love the art style. I think that's what like really sets it apart, because it's like dark, yet like it still pulls off like the really fantastical, unique, like magical girl like outfits and powers, like in a really crazy, in like a kind of realistic modern society or postmodern or whatever, and then just the paper cutout designs of like the
witch labyrinths.
Those are amazing. I love those, and then the music too is also really wonderfully done.
It's so been good. Stuck in my head.
Sometimes I'll listen to the soundtrack just because it's so. I think all of it comes together to make like a really immersive experience. Like you're not just focused on the characters, you're focused on the cities and the labyrinths, and like what do these labyrinths tell you about like the person, like, because later we realize these were magical girls, and then you're like, wow, like what caused this labyrinth?
Yeah, I definitely like the colors and like the designs of the backgrounds. I like a lot. So that's definitely a plus, and that does continue into Rebellion to be really really good there too.
Oh yeah, no,
So-
Rebellion has some like really beautiful scenery.
Especially again, just to kind of shift for that, I guess. Like the bus thing and the colors with
Yeah.
that. Is
That was
really
so
good.
unsettling.
That's
Like,
I
had
really
nightmares
like that scene. That's a really good scene. Just with the emotion and the colors is really really good. And I also, I don't know, I always like when like media kind of has this like I don't know, I guess spatial warp thing, spatial distortion, and they mess with that. I always like that when it's done. This reminds me of just because I was showing my some various stuff when we were talking about characters. How like this is kind of a common, well not common, but it's a trope that like people have used for like the Slender Man like YouTube series, where it's like they somehow like kind of managed to like make like really well edited cuts where they seem to like they go into one room and then they get out of the room and it's a different area and they like and like transitions like that where they go from one place to another and it looks like super smooth in like the editing or whatever. I always really like that and how that's done. So it's kind of similar here in this at least the narrative sense, and I don't know. But yeah, so that scene is really good in that. The fucking cake thing.
He messaged me while he was watching this movie, being like, "Why are they singing about cake?"
It's very unsettling. I think.
And I was like, "I don't know what to tell you, dude."
Okay, so for some context, actually, the first time I watched this movie was in theaters in Japanese.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I brought my like little telescope thingy. Like it's called a monocular. It helps me see things at a distance to read the subtitles.
Yeah.
But I couldn't read them, so I only got the context of about half the movie
Oh.
and just watched the rest. So just for context, like that's where a lot of it came from. Eventually, I did watch. Like I watched it in English because I was trying so hard to understand what was happening.
Yeah.
Spoilers, I still didn't understand. But also, I think a lot of my memories are from just watching it in the theater.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, because I very clearly at the beginning I was like, okay, this has to be some sort of like alternate reality because like people are alive and stuff is different, whatever. But then I saw the cake thing and I'm just like, oh no, what is happening? Help me.
Yo, no. Like already from like the weird dream sequence to like them essentially bringing the witch dinner, like I was
I was so fucking confused.
same.
Yeah. Yeah. So that was that, and then I do like how there are like a decent amount of like red herrings, in terms of trying to figure out what's going on. Again, like I said, shit, what was the name?
Bebe?
Yeah. Where I was like that thing is clearly like evil somehow because like it's the only thing that's like new, and it like it basically is I think the witch that like killed Bobby or whatever.
It is Charlotte.
It is.
Yeah. So
it is Charlotte.
So it's like okay, that's not suspicious at all. So it's like okay that, and then later when like Sayaka is like wait, you clearly shouldn't be here either, right? And the whole thing with that. So it's both, and a lot of times what I've seen happen is in a story that's not as well told, is that like they's like, oh, here's a red herring or whatever, like, oh, you think it's that, but then it's actually this other thing. But then like once you know what the actual twist is and you go back to the red herring, it makes no sense, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, they clearly just like made here's this thing that's suspicious, ooh, but then it's like if you come back later, it's like, wait, that doesn't make any sense. But here it actually does make sense. Even if you know what's going to happen, it still makes sense why things are weird with those characters and things, right?
Yeah, because you know what Bebe is, and then once you know what happens, then it's like it's not untrue, but it's the wrong witch.
Yeah.
It
also just makes sense, like, okay, why is Bebe here? Why is it weird? And then why is Sayaka here? Why is Sayaka, like, different from the others, right? And it's like, okay, this still makes sense, even if you know what is going on. So, yes, that is done well. And I don't remember when I thought that this is the case. I think it was shortly after the bus thing. And
you mean the first bus ride with Kyoko?
I don't remember if the first or the second one, but it was definitely after one of the bus scenes, and I had this feeling where I was like, because I was like, wait, Homoda would like know all of this, but like the others wouldn't. And I'm like, so I had like a guess that somehow like it was that I thought it was more that like that it wasn't this angle of like the witch angle, but it was that like somehow she had like built like a basically I thought what happened did happen. It's just that there wasn't the specifically the witch
like in
thing
a different
involved.
way.
Yeah, I don't know, some way that she sort of built this like fantasy reality for herself, which is not wrong. It's just not involving the witch thing. With like at the same time though, because I was thinking like, wait, the witch thing makes no sense because the whole thing is that like Madoka like got rid of all the witches, but I'm like, wait, but like based on what happened at the end of the series, she would be like the only person who could maybe be out of that cycle. So like that actually does make sense. So that aspect of it I actually like a lot. And again, the whole thing about how she, again, coming back to how kind of at the end of the series where like she has this sort of, the love for Madoka is like, it's sort of like toxic, and like how she kind of let it consume her in that way, and that like that would lead to a sort of despair, and how she falls into that. I think that's actually really well done and really interesting. And I said this to Mai before that like, if I was to go full on like super depressing ending, I would have just ended it right there. In terms of like when she like realizes I'm now a witch, oh god, everything's fucked, and like that's the end. And like people would like be like probably hate me for like, you know, you don't have the climactic narrative or whatever, but like in terms of honestly the arc and the emotion, I think that works in that sense. Again, I'm not saying that it's like this is the only way to end it and everybody else is wrong, but like if you're going for a depressing ending, I think that's the perfect place to go.
I mean, I do agree that I feel like that would have satisfied me more. Like, I mean, I like happy endings when they're earned, but I guess I felt like with how Homura's arc was, she would never have a happy ending. So
Yeah, I mean, I realize, like, my thing was, like, if they had, well, I mean, I guess essentially that's kind of what it was, but, like, and they all lived miserably ever after. The thing is, like, if it's, like, Homer realizes she's a witch, then, like, a lot of stuff is not resolved. Granted, a lot of stuff is not resolved. Like, we don't even get the ending of, like, why is Bebe here? What's with Sayaka? You know, like,
Well, at least
what's with like, and then the whole thing with like, oh, it's actually like all the QBs trapped her there is like a lure. That was kind of unnecessary, but I can't suggest a better way of ending it, but I feel like there was one. I just don't know what it was.
Yeah, well, so okay,
cutting it off at I'm a witch, the end.
Right.
Not super satisfying.
I understand that completely. And so my thing is that so that was where at first I was like, hey, this kind of feels like a place they could have ended it, and then they didn't. And then so after that, there's the whole thing with Kyubey basically revealing they're like, oh, we actually trapped you in here, and it was us all along, and it was like, okay, like why? Because you were just Kyubey was just not needed in this story, basically.
No.
So that just felt like, oh look, we're still the bad guy, and it's just like. So like that was
I
not
did
needed.
not like that.
So that I don't really care for, but the whole idea of like the other girls actually like trying to, you know, fight the witch, trying to break Homoda out of it, and like, you know, that sort of and kind of that sort of like climax and I guess like emotional finish of that where it's like trying to save her, that works.
See, I feel like the movie could have ended cleanly after that, even you know, whether or not Homoda survived or like, you know, ended up having to die, like that's up for debate, but I feel like it could have ended after that fight.
Yeah, well, because
like I told Valen, like that was kind of for me, like the movie was very fan servicey and very different levels. Because like a lot of the fans wanted to see like, you know, a partner, quote unquote, for, you know, or a counterpart for Mommy. You know, they got the whole like Kyoko and Sayaka like ship thing. They got, you know, everybody showing off their powers, group magical girl transformation, all kinds of stuff that was very kind of fan servicey in that moment. So I feel like they could have gotten that over with and just ended it, you know.
Yeah, that's why I'm kind of like saying that, because for me to like for it to end, basically thinking about like how okay, they do break her out of it, and like, you know, Madoka realizes what she is, and she comes down to like, you know, save her and like, I don't know, take her away with her or whatever, and that's the happy ending, right? If it ended there, then my only issue is again the whole like the Kyubey thing, right? So if you could sort of take that out of it and then end at that part, then I would have been 100% satisfied. I have no problem with it. But so that's kind of the thing with that. And the only thing that is still a little weird is the whole thing about how Sayaka and Charlotte are like helper people to Madoka.
I don't understand that really either. I mean, they kind of...
Because here's the thing, it makes sense that Sayaka would be helper to Madoka. That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Right? But I'm like, wait, so but why Charlotte? Because, like...
I don't know why Charlotte's there.
Because the only thing I can think of is that, like, well, Madoka did, like, save, did something with, like, their soul gems or whatever, at the end of the show. But she did that to, like, everybody. So I was like, so does that mean, like, everyone is somehow helping her, but, like, only, like, Charlotte is here now? Or what? So yeah, that was part of the thing where it was like, it's just kind of weird, and is it ultimately that important? No, but it was just a thing I kind of was a little confused about.
Yeah, they needed some reason for Charlotte to exist.
I don't want Charlotte to exist. I'm sorry.
There's several reasons why Charlotte should not exist.
Like, if people like her moe, kawaii,
she
second
didn't even really
form,
do anything,
fine.
So...
But no, we don't need Charlotte. She's useless. Bye. Fuck off.
She doesn't even have a cool power.
You're like, what even
she
was
doesn't
it?
do anything.
Yeah, exactly. She doesn't do
She's there
anything.
to remind you that she ate mommy once.
Yeah, like, because honestly, the whole idea of her, like, being Bebe or whatever, and that being part of Homoda's fantasy world because she saw what happened to mommy, that makes sense in that correlation, right? In that sort of environment, why she would be there. But the idea that somehow she's, like, helping Madoka and, like, not anyone else besides that, just, like, that's weird.
That makes no goddamn sense.
Yeah, so that doesn't make any sense. So that was, but if that was there, okay, fine, whatever. I still think that ending would have been fine if they broke through the seal. Homoda's fine. Madoka remembers what she is. She comes down and is like, I'm gonna take you with me. Whatever. I forgot about you. I'm sorry. Blah. I'm gonna take you with me. Everyone's happy. Happy ending. Hooray. But then that didn't happen.
No, it didn't. No, it didn't. Homoda just had to ruin it. She just had to take a big old poot on everything.
And I said this before, like, with Maya, I'm like, I actually don't mind the idea that, like, again, this sort of toxic love idea, right? And that Homoda's basically like, I'm so consumed by this sort of idea of what I think things should be like, that I'm willing to say, fuck it, I'm just gonna do what I think should happen, even though literally logically makes no sense whatsoever. I actually don't mind that idea. The problem is that we just came off of the idea of her falling into despair with the
and then
witch
getting saved.
Right, so like it's like here's this whole narrative and an emotional climax and build up with Homoda, then that's resolved, then here's another one, like out of nowhere, and it's like whoa.
You have to pick one.
Yeah.
Okay, I agree that maybe at the end of the series you can argue that maybe Homura's arc is not completely finished because, Madoka fucks off into the sky and then she's like, what the hell do I do now? Fine, make a movie about Homura's arc finishing. That's fine. Pick one ending, though.
Yeah.
No fan service.
Yeah. So there's that, and then I still don't really understand. Like, what did she do? Like,
she basically captured Madoka so that she's no longer God. She put her in what I would, I guess, consider another labyrinth, but it's not a labyrinth, where everyone is fine and happy, quote unquote. And Sayaka knows that shit is up, and they kind of know that if Madoka ever remembers, then there's gonna be a big old fight.
Right, but like then she like kind of does remember, but then it just ends.
Yeah, because like I guess I don't know. Homura throws herself off a cliff, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I'm like, what is the point of that? So like it literally felt like they were like, wait, we need to surprise them, and they like just ass-pulled this.
You don't!
They ass-pulled this out of nowhere, and then they're like, okay, now we got this weird setup, things are all different now, and we can actually do something weird with this, and let's not do anything and just stop the movie. And it's like, wait, what? It's like, if you're going to change things that much...
The movie just, like, randomly ended.
Yeah!
Yeah.
Like, you were just, like, walking down a hill, and you're like, I don't know what I just experienced, but I survived, and then suddenly you get hit by a car. That's literally how the movie ended.
Why? It's the fucking City of Angels ending, but like not, like kind of seriously though.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's true.
Oh God.
Julie, do you remember this?
Yes, you told me.
Okay.
With Meg Ryan.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
We're
funny.
Meg Ryan.
No, but literally, because like that's how it felt though. But like the thing is, that was like the whole movie was dumb and stupid. So it was just funny and how it like was so clear. But this, it was like I actually liked most of the stuff before it. So it was like, what the hell are you doing? And again, it felt like
That's upset.
it really just felt like they were going to build up to an even bigger kind of second climactic fight, and then they don't.
Okay. They don't, and like this. I guess the thing is like, cause how? Okay, here's another thing. Have you guys seen the trailer for the concept film?
I've heard about it. I haven't seen it though, and like after this movie, I was just like, I don't know what to do anymore. I liked this show, but now I don't know how I feel.
Yeah. See, I feel like the show could have been perfectly cut with the ribbon on top. It could have been perfect. But I think it's a lot like the Dragon Ball Z thing, or a lot of the shows that have like a zillion and one episodes. Is like the show did so well that like, you know,
Yeah,
people
We don't
above-
need more.
Yeah, but people above are like, of course they need Homura. We need a reason for Homura to be resolved. We need a reason for all these things to happen. And I think that's what they ended up doing, is like leaving themselves an open for whatever comes next after this, if and when something comes out. But it's like, you guys could have done that so easily, because most shows at least try to cut it off so that way, like, if there is nothing left afterwards, you can easily just be like, yeah, there was nothing else. Or if there is more, then like, yeah, okay, we can add more. It's literally like you cut 2 movies in half. But this movie
Yeah.
had like several endings and none of them
Yeah,
worked
Yeah.
perfectly.
And like, here's the thing: if you
it's
want
like a
to,
visual novel.
if you want to go for a twist ending, which first of all, again, I'm not saying you even need to do that, but if you want to do that, I think actually what would have been even better is that, like, literally Madoka's coming down to save Homura, and then Homura grabs her and is like, no, and then just fucks shit up, and like, that's the end. Right? So literally that, right at that ending, that could have happened just where it's like, then you're like, what the fuck is gonna happen, right? Because then it's
Yeah.
like, that sets
Yeah,
that up. But
exactly.
here, it's like they do that, but then there's another like 10 minutes of like nothing. Right?
Yeah, it's all
That's
this
so
random stuff
completely like takes any sort of like intensity out of whatever's going on, and it's like, oh, so like that should have been like, again, like sort of, if they're gonna make a 4th movie or whatever, that should be like the start of that next movie.
This
Right.
movie has like 2 beginnings and like 5 endings, and I don't know, man.
That was literally my thing when I was watching it, like, for the first time. I'm like, so it's ending now. Oh
Yep.
no, it's ending now.
Yep, same.
So it's ending, right? No, it's not ending yet. And it's funny because, like, not being able to see what was going on, like, in terms of reading the text, I was like, I'm both lost, confused, and like, am I ever gonna be allowed to leave the theater?
Am I trapped in the law of cycles now?
Oh,
Am I
God.
Homura?
Yeah, I remember I was, because again,
The theory come out, is me Homura?
I remember specifically, I was like, again, after the whole witch reveal, I was like, is this gonna be the end? Oh, it's not. Okay, then with whole Madoka, I was like, okay, is this the end? No, it's not. And then as it was doing the final stuff at the end, I was like, okay, I guess they're gonna kind of lead up to another oh wait, it ended.
This is the end.
I expected it to end, and then it didn't, and then I expected it to end, and then it didn't, and then I was not expecting it to end, and it did.
And then it did.
I was like, what? So,
And then it did.
oh boy.
But because I feel like there was a lot of stuff that was like, or I feel like because the ending I think was what really got me after, you know, because like suddenly they're plunged into a new reality, you know, where supposedly Homura is a god,
The new god.
but she doesn't fashion herself into the new law of cycles. So it's
No.
like, then what happens? You know, because obviously she took Kyubey and is like, you know, using him as her plaything. That doesn't mean that like the other incubators aren't like doing what they were doing before, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, so I guess like Madoka, and even though she like, because again, going back to what I was saying about potential energy, and I could be completely wrong because this just came to me right now, like Homura essentially has just as much potential energy as Madoka. So
Right,
it
because
could-
of the
yeah,
time
because of all the
loops.
time travel, which like means that she could be a goddess in her own right, but that doesn't mean that Madoka suddenly stops being a goddess, right?
I think
So,
that's what
I
she
think-
was talking about with Sayaka at the end.
Yeah. But like the fact that she's still
powerful enough to like establish a new reality means that she's still powerful enough to like suppress that goddess in Madoka. But she even admits to herself that like one day she's not gonna be able to, and Madoka's gonna like realize who she is. Honestly, that's what I want to see in the next movie, is a big goddess fight, because
Yeah, again,
you know, I realize the whole toxic love thing is like kind of interesting, but the whole like yandere kind of like relationship just it leaves a sour taste in my mouth, because then
I
it's
don't like it.
Madoka, you're a smart girl. I realize you like, you know, you have compassion and like you're smart enough to know when you're outmatched, but like please do us all a favor and like at least kick the shit a little bit out of Homura for us. Oh my god. Unrelated, but oh my god, that gunfight though.
With her and Mommy?
Yes.
I said this where I was like, all I could think of was like, how are they missing each other?
Anime.
They're right in front of each other. They're like missing. I'm like, wow, they're worse than stormtroopers.
The whole slowdown shot of like the bullets hitting each other.
Yeah.
Kind of amazing.
I guess, yeah, I can at least appreciate the fact that they gave Mommy some more screen time, even though I don't really like her, and they gave Kyoko more screen time, and I love Kyoko, so...
Yeah, I think Kyoko was the one who got, like, the most short shrift of, like, everyone. In both arcs, I guess. Or in both, like, parts of the series. She didn't get too many episodes, and she didn't get a lot of time in the movie. Like, she got more time. But there's like an AU that was actually published. I don't know if you guys have heard of Madoka Magica, which exists. I think it's one of the timelines.
There's also different story with. I should probably read that with her and Mommy.
Yeah, but it was. Yeah, I think that's one of them too. It was her and it was Kyoko and Mommy, and it was actually like super interesting one. I think it was really well done as like a timeline. But yeah, no, I really wish Kyoko existed more, because she is an interesting character. I think we just a lot of times we're like tempted to just write her off as like the, you know, someone who's like angry and punkish and whatever, but it's like, actually no,
she's my favorite character. So
I remember when she was first introduced, I was like, this person's like a bitch. Why is Mai like her? Is something wrong with Mai? Did someone hurt her? But like, again, at the end, I kind of agree with Julie, where, like, I just felt like she wasn't given enough for me.
She wasn't given enough, really. No.
So.
Like, yeah. I mean, I can see why people ship her with Sayaka. I personally don't, but I think their dynamic was really interesting, like, how they played off each other, and I would have liked to see more of that, because I think they work really well as foils. And they're the red and blue, so, you know, they're the perfect foils, because it's like the red Oni, the blue Oni, like fire and
it's just
water.
Like how that dynamic was presented, though, it was much more through the lens of Sayaka. Right?
Yeah.
So, yeah. She definitely, I think of the five, Kyoko got the least stuff. But, so I would personally rank her fourth, just because I just don't really care for Mommy at all.
Don't know much about her. I personally just really resonated with her when, like, I first watched her, and then now. Oh yeah, very small side note. So, there's a ending song for episode 9, and it was produced by Wowaka. He died earlier this year. Aww. So, yesterday I remembered that, and then I listened to the song again, and I was like, this is even more sad than it was before. So, any other Wowaka fan? Now you know that.
I'm just... The ending of Rebellion kind of reminds me of the ending of the Golden Compass movie.
Oh my god, that movie...
Wait, you saw that movie?
I saw it in theaters
with
my
fuck?
mom,
I didn't know that.
So
okay,
angry.
Okay, no, hold on. Have you read the book?
I did!
Okay, yes, okay. I have someone to write this about. Okay, so, this fucking movie. So... The book has this story of stuff going on, and then the last, like, little bit of the book is sort of this big, it's sort of, the whole movie, in terms of the main character's journey, is all building up to this one thing. So then, at the end, she sort of, like, gets to solve that one thing right when everything gets fucked. Everything gets, in terms of her world and what she has been trying to do, it all gets completely fucked. And, like, and then it also, not only is it all fucked, but, like, it opens up, like, oh shit, this is gonna get crazy, like, in the sequel. Right?
Mm-hmm.
The movie just stops before that point. It just stops. It's so frustrating because it's like if you only watched the movie, you would be like, okay, I mean, I guess I can see what they could do for a sequel, but like, all right, you wouldn't hate the ending, but like you would just be like, okay, whatever. But if you know what the ending was supposed to be, and especially in the trailer, they had the actual ending very briefly in the trailer. So they did film it. They just specifically chose to cut it off before that. When it's like, why the fuck did you do that? You just screwed it up so much.
I watched the movie first, and then I read the book second. And then I was like, wait, what the fuck?
Yeah, I read the book first. So, yeah. Have you read the sequel books or no?
I didn't get around to it because I think I was so, like, I don't know, like, traumatized or mad or something at the ending. And I just didn't continue for some reason.
It's okay because again, I'm kind of not sure how much to say because like there is actually now an HBO series that they've started. The episodes are now going up like weekly, starting a few weeks ago. And at least season 1 is basically the first book, and it seems like they're actually following the book this time. And they're actually going to end it, at the end of the book. So then ideally season 2 would be the second book, and season 3 would be the third book, right? So I'm curious to see how because there are a few small changes in the show, but it is definitely much more faithful, and like they actually like do the events in order. Once the movie just decides to swap the order of 2 major events for no reason. So okay, and so I will say it gets weird, like good weird, but weird in terms of the future of it. It's it gets off the rails, but kind of in a good way. So I'm not gonna.
You mean unlike Rebellion that goes off the rails?
Yeah. So
he was saying that at some point he was like, "This is a good ending," but then mine said this goes right off the rails, so I guess I'll keep watching.
Yeah.
It goes off the rails and over a cliff,
Yeah.
which is, probably the best description of the ending.
Yeah.
But anyway, just in terms of like an ending that like
over a cliff, just like Madoka.
Oh my God. Well, I'm gonna say like it reminded me of the Golden Compass movie because it's like you had endings there and you specifically chose to not do them, and so it was just so frustrating. But I don't know. So is there any like plan to actually have another movie or anything?
I don't know. I've seen a couple of trailers for the concept film, so there's a couple of things out there for that. And the beginning of the trailer is very. I think one thing anime trailers do very well is like they show you a lot without spoiling anything.
Yeah.
Because
unlike here in the US.
Yeah, I remember when the Rebellion trailer came out, I watched the whole thing several times, gained nothing from the experience.
Same. It's just like scenery porn, basically. It's art porn.
It literally is, and I will say the art is still fantastic. Nonsensical, but fantastic.
Yeah, fair. Yeah.
I'm at this point because of Rebellion. I'm just like, if Kyoko's not in the concept movie, I'm not watching it.
Oh my God.
I don't know. I saw some good things, and I'll see if I can post the link to it in the chat. But it's really good. Well, a couple of versions. I don't know which one is like the actual version, but I know which one I saw. So
they've been like releasing trailers since 2017 or something.
Oh yeah.
So.
Because again, like I'm kind of thinking like, okay, they definitely have an angle they can go for a follow-up, but at the same time, I'm like considering how they ended this Rebellion. I'm like, I don't know if I'd actually like want to see it though. Because again, they might just like fucking end it this way again for the next one to be like, oh shit, there's gonna be another one for another movie, and it's like, oh fuck, So yeah, I don't know.
I just want to see Madoka get a win. I want to see Kyoko get a win.
I just want Kyoko to get more love, okay?
See, all you gotta do is be nice to her, because we already know she has like empathy. She's not a total bitch all the time, just sometimes.
Yeah. Girls gotta eat.
Well, yeah. She definitely does that.
Yeah.
Kyoko is a girl after my own heart.
Just shove those apples into the mouth.
Nom nom.
Play DDR and just eat a bunch of Pocky afterwards.
Yeah, I know, right? At least he burns it off.
Give food as a sign of friendship. Hell yeah.
I did notice the DDR thing. It was like an EDM like version of the theme song.
Yeah, it's Connect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, okay. I want to mention.
I found that on a DDR machine in
Oh.
J-Town. It was amazing.
There was I did notice actually about the actual like opening of the show.
Oh yeah.
I did notice that like there's literally nothing in the opening is actually in the show.
Yep.
So
No, that's the best. One of the best things. Like if you would just watch the opening,
yeah,
you would have no goddamn clue what's happening.
yeah. I
Like,
said it in
you
the
would think you're watching the opening for a totally different show.
right. I said
think-
in the first discussion, I said that like if you just like looked at the poster and you watched like the opening on YouTube, like the show that you're thinking in your mind is not the show you get at all. And I was curious, like, are they ever going to change this or anything? Nope, but they keep it all the way to like the end of the series, and I was like, okay, I actually like the commitment with that, which is good.
I think my headcanon is that the opening is like a couple of snapshots of the other timelines. That's kind of how I think of it.
Or just I don't know. I just see it as misleading and trolling, but whatever.
That also works.
Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely been some instances where shows like either use like openings or also like closing credits to their advantage.
Yeah.
I do think my favorite use of that ever is something in one of the Star Wars Clone Wars things. Mike knows what I'm talking about, actually. I mentioned it at one point.
I think so.
It's one of those things where it's like, okay, you know, every show, of course, has the same sort of ending credits, and they end every episode the exact same way every single time, right? So, and there's a couple instances where, like, oh, the episode itself is, like, kind of has a downer moment, but then, oh, here comes the credit theme, da-da-da-da-da, you know, and it's, like, a little bit awkward, right? But, like, that's how it always is, so you're like, okay, whatever, it's not a big deal, right? So, it's an instance like that, but then there's actually two times, but the first time it happens, they don't do that. And it's like, oh, fuck. You know, it's the emotional part of it where, like, it's one of those things where you don't even realize, like, how you've been conditioned for the kind of upbeat credits until you don't see the upbeat credits. And then you're like, shit. So
I know for some, like, darker shows, sometimes if it is actually an appropriate ending, then they just bleed the scene into the ending and they just don't show the credit scene. They did that several times with Banana Fish. It does also work in that respect as well. Like, I can see how it can work with, like, just cutting, no credits, no song, nothing. But I've also seen it work where it's just the song, you don't get the credits, it's the end of the scene, and then it cuts to black. I like that too.
Yeah. Or, especially, like, sometimes also, even if it does do, like, the kind of upbeat credits, it's, like, how it's portrayed feels like the biggest troll. Like, I'm thinking right now of, Julie, this ending of season 1 of Code Geass.
Oh god.
Where literally it's like this like super intense thing and then it just ends and then it's like happy credits and it's like fuck wah! You're just like it's just so yeah.
So great.
It's the biggest like troll move. And then also especially when season 2 starts and you're just so confused and you're like, what is going on?
But
yeah.
Just pick up Rolo by the scruff of his neck, like, the fuck is this thing?
What are you? What have you done? Anyway, but Maya hasn't seen it, so we have to.
I haven't seen it yet.
Please.
I want to basically. This is one of the things I want to show them, like with how they showed Madoka. The only problem is that it's a little bit harder to watch all of Code Geass than
because it's like 50 episodes.
It's 52. It's 2 seasons of 26, so it's not a lot, but yeah. Isn't Full Metal Alchemist 52?
It's 64.
Okay, so yeah.
So it's not unheard of. It's definitely not like Bleach, so it's not that much of a commitment.
Or the fucking Detective Conan. Of like, I felt kind of bad where I was like saying that like I kind of didn't want to watch the rest of Tara's show, but I wanted to watch yours. But I'm like, look, Tara, your show is 957 episodes. I'm sorry, I don't want to watch all of that unless I absolutely love it, and I, you know. So
not all the double speeding in the world will make that faster.
No. So
I do need to catch up with it, though.
Yeah. So, anyway, this has gone on for a very long time, but do we have any last-minute things about this?
Please give Kyoko more screen time. That's all I want.
Okay.
I'll never eat cake again.
That's a lie.
You shut your liar mouth, shush.
No.
You have to sing the cake song, but I don't even remember it now.
I don't want to
Okay.
remember it, so...
Watch just the show. Don't watch Rebellion.
Well, because that's the problem. Like, I can't... There is stuff in Rebellion that's good. So it's like, you can't...
And especially if you watch the show, there's, like, no reason to not watch Rebellion if you don't know what happens. You're like, ooh, yay, it's more.
Yeah, so... I don't know, it's complicated.
I think you can appreciate them separately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if there is...
Together, maybe not, but, like, separately you can appreciate them.
Yeah, so I guess I'd recommend the show, and I'd recommend Rebellion, but just, well, I mean... If
Asterisk?
well, yeah, I mean, at this point, if you're listening this far in, well, we kind of spoiled everything, but, you know...
If you don't want anything to be ruined, don't watch Rebellion. If you think you'll like it, because there are some people who do actually like it. I'm not one of those people. None of us are really one of those people, but...
I like parts of it.
I'm not saying that I hate the whole thing. I mean, they did add some good things that were not fan servicey that much, but I will not forgive what happens at the end.
Yeah.
I can't. It's like the whole reason why I have such mixed feelings about the two endings is just the fact that this movie existed. Because I had no problem with the end of Madoka at the beginning. I could have just been like, okay, maybe it's not my kind of ending, but it's fine. But then this... I have feelings, and I need to get rid of them.
Flush them down the toilet.
I wish I could, with the end of Rebellion.
Well, I guess that's it. Anything else for anyone?
Whack.
Okay. Well, we already said what we're doing, for next weekend in yesterday's thing, which was...
Whoa.
What are we? I already forgot. What are we watching again?
The Green Mile?
Right, that's what we're watching. I forgot. Okay, yeah.
If that's a lie, then I'm sorry.
No, that is what it is. Okay, yeah. Which that'll be a thing. Presumably different than this. I think.
Contract?
Sure. I don't know. But yeah. So that's will be again normal Monday thing next week. So yeah. We'll see. I don't know if there are like other show things that come up that are like shorter shows that maybe, you know, want to kind of do a follow-up thing after some of us have seen more of it. I guess we could do that.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of the shows that I want to like show you. I can't really think
I don't
of.
think any of them are short.
Yeah,
dude.
that's the main thing. Or like the one. Okay, there's like two that are short. One of them is so short that we could probably just watch the whole series like the first time.
Okay.
The other one is short, but at the same time, there's not like a particular like plot reason why you would like really want to finish it. It's an episodic show where it's like each episode is its own kind of thing going on.
Oh,
right?
okay.
So it's like, and I'm not saying you don't want to watch the rest of it, but there's not like, ooh, I really want to see what's going to happen, and therefore I have more things to talk about in like a follow-up, right? There isn't really.
Right.
So, yeah, I can't think of an example right now, but maybe something, I don't know. So, who knows? And maybe we could see if Julie has time to join in anything at some point, if that's possible.
Yay.
Because we want you to be included.
Woo.
Okay. Well, I guess that's that. So, bye.
Bye.